Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Gaming on Board. My name is Josh. Um, the last video I posted was the unboxing of a game that I backed on Kickstarter. I'm talking about Wendake. So now I've had a chance to get 4 or 5 plays in. I'm very pleased with it. Turned out to be great. So I figured I would make a as quick as I can, how to play video. So I'm not going to go through all the different mechanics in the game and all the rules and all that. I'm just going to set up a game, a 2-player game, and I'm going to go through a few turns so you can see exactly what's going on, all your different options, and everything that the game has to offer. So as I go through the turns for these 2 players, I'll explain all the options and the rules associated with the actions that are happening. And I think that'll be a lot easier way for you to learn how to play the game and to see if it's something that you would enjoy. So I think this is available on Amazon now, and I'm sure there's some copies out there on eBay somewhere. But let's go down the table and learn how to play Wendake. Okay, so I have a 2-player game set up. There's a whole lot of game in this box, okay? So you got the 2-player boards. And you got the 4 different scoring tracks. And they're supposed to go on either side of the board, but I've just put them both together here because it's better for the camera. So they're usually very easily distinguishable, but you see they separate like this. Normally this one would be on the bottom, this one would be up there. And these 4 scoring categories are actually customizable. Like, so you can switch and swap them, but I'm pretty sure this is the setting or the setup they suggest for your first game. So as you can see, I've got all the supplies of resources up there. There's no reason for you to see those at all times, so we're just going to focus right here on the game board and the 2-player boards. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do is have everyone choose a color and take all the bits and pieces for that color. Every person has 9 starting tiles. These are all individual tiles. And you shuffle them up and place them randomly and make sure that the fire is in the center. Once you do that, each person will choose a territory on the map. In this 2-player game, there's only 2 territories, 2 home bases, and then each player will put 5 of their warrior meeples into that home territory, and 5 of their women, and 5 of their men. Okay? And there's places on the board that have a little grayed out picture of a man or a woman. You can see there's a woman, and the men will be squares and look just like their tokens. So you'll put 5 of each in your starting territory, and the other 2, because there's 7 of each type, the other 2 will go here in your longhouse. Your longhouse represents those of the tribe that are injured and you have to perform a ritual action, which I'll show you later, to bring them back out into the land so they can start harvesting and hunting and protecting your territory. So they go to the longhouse to rest, basically. Once each player has chosen a color, put their tiles out, put their pawns here and their pieces on the board, they'll put 1 of each of their little scoring discs on the 0 mark on each scoring track, as well as 1 empty space on the mask track. It's not really a track, but it's just the mask area. And there's 4 spaces there. It's like the restore area, I think is what it's called. Then you'll decide how you want to play the game. So you can play the game with, I think there's 10 or 11 different tribes. And if you play as tribe specific, then you get specific starting items, and some of them even get special abilities or an extra meeple or a special tile So it's really cool if you do want to play that way, but if you want to play the suggested starting way, each player will receive one beaver pelt, one fish, one of each vegetable, 2 beaver tokens, and 1 mask card. So I've already done that. Okay, so each player has one of each resource and a mask card and 2 beaver tokens. Also, each player then chooses a place to put one of their canoes. Each player will have 5 canoes, and these are used for different things during the game, mostly fishing and trading. That might be it. So you'll just take one. It doesn't matter where you put it. The canoes don't fight. They don't fight over land. This is just related to fishing and trading. Then you'll give each player a swap token. So in between rounds, they can use this to swap one of their tiles that they've replaced with another tile that they've already replaced with something else. And if you don't use this during the game, it's worth 1 extra point at the end of the game. So that's after you've totaled your scores up. And then each player will get a fire token. And I'll explain why each player has a fire token later. Then you decide who's going to go first. In a 2-player game, all you really need is the first player marker, but the game does come with 4 of these, and they get smaller as they go down. So this is the first player token, and there'll be a second player token, a third player token, and then a 4th player token. Because the player order will change every round, and it's really easy to forget who's going first, second, third, and fourth. So they gave you these nice little standees for each player order. All right, so once you've done all that, you're ready to play the game. There's some other setup stuff I've already done. You'll put turtle tiles here on this turtle tile track, 1 of each value and type for the number of players in the game. So there's woman, man, and canoe. We've got 2 3s, 2 4s, 2 5s in each category. We also shuffled up mass deck before we dealt 1 to each player. And then we flip the top card over to create the discard pile. And you'll see why that's important. One other thing we did is there's a tile market. It's not really a market because you don't have to buy it. But there's 6 tiles here, and at the end of each round you can swap out a tile for one that's over here. And the number of available tiles is based on the number of players in the game. So in a 2-player game there'll be 11 of these total, with only 6 showing at a time. Then you've got this actually is a market up here. There's level 1, 2, and 3 special abilities you can purchase as part of the trade action, and I'll show you that when we get there. Also, if you have any of these special ability tiles that show a British or Australian flag, you would use those tokens. In this game, we do not see any British or Australian flags, but I'll show them to you anyway. There you go. So there's certain abilities that cause you to have alliance to either British or Australian forces, but we won't see any of that in this game. But you may notice the flags on the map. There are, if you can see here, British flag, Australian flag, British flag, Australian flag. So those do come into play if we have those special ability tiles involved in this game. Alright, let's see if I can get back where I need to be. There we go. Okay, so now red's going to be first. The way this game works is you have 4 of these little pawns, okay? And under each pawn is one of the tribe council, one of the tribe leaders. And the theme is you're basically consulting with the council on what decision you should make, which is just cool. And the reason you have 4 is one of these is going to be used to choose your turn order in the next round. So if you wanted, on your first turn, you could just say, boom, I'm going to be first next turn, and that would be the end of your turn for this round. Oops. Then the other 3 are for choosing your actual actions. And that's what I'm going to do right now, after I pick these up. Okay, so every time you perform an action, you have to keep in mind that all future actions have to create a straight line, either horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. So if I go here, I am either going to have to go this way, or this way for my next 2 actions. If I go to the fire space, obviously I can go off in any direction I want. But you just have to keep in mind your actions have to be in a straight line. If you choose to do the fire action, you can choose any action on your board that you have not already selected or you will not select in the future. Okay? So if I chose mask, I would put a fire token there, and that's pretty much cut off this diagonal path for me. If I chose this one, it would cut this off, so on, so forth. You get the idea. So I'm not going to start with a fire action. I'm going to start in a way that I can show you each of these actions for learning purposes. So red's first, he's going to do the mask action. So the mask action, and they give you a nifty little pictogram instructional thing here. So this basically says you draw a card from either the deck or the discard pile. Then you can play cards to meet one of the mask point requirements, and then move your point token on the mask track equal to the number of points you gained for the cards you played. So let me see how well I can get you a view of this here. Here is the mask track point area. So you'll see you can get, see what my finger looks like zoomed in like this. All right. So you can get 2 different cards, a pair, 3 different cards, 3 of a kind, 2 pair, 4 different cards, 4 of a kind, 3 pairs, or 2 3 of a kinds. And then the point value is listed right above it. So for 2 different cards, you can always get 1 point. I know you can't see it very well, but you're pretty much guaranteed at least 1 point if you take the mask action, because you're going to have 2 cards that are different at all times. Because you start with 1. So I look at the discard pile. Here's the discard pile card. It matches. So I'm going to go ahead and take that. So that's the first step of the mask action. I'll take these. These are in my hand. Then I'll play them. Okay. And since it's a pair, I get to put my red disc here on the pair spot. Now no one else this round can claim that point spot. Nobody else can play a pair. They have to play anything else. And that one's worth 2 points. So I'll find my piece here on the mask scoring track and move it up to 2. And that's the end of the mask action. Now it goes over to the blue player. So the blue player just wants to go first, basically. So they'll put their first piece up there on the blue spot, back over to red. Red, obviously, he's just going to keep taking actions because he's going second no matter what. If this was a 3 or 4 player game, that would be a little bit more, that would mean something. So let's do canoe, so I can show you what that means. And the canoe action's really simple. Grab a canoe, put it out here in the water. So you're just, buffering, not buffering, but bolstering your future effects that are related to canoes. And then back over to blue, he's going to actually do an action this time. And I think a good one to show would be this here. This means you're going to turn all the beavers you have into leather or pelts, whatever. then you're also going to, holy crap, come on. You're also going to move one. So turn all your beavers into leather and then move one space. So I got, everybody starts the game with 2. So I'll turn those in. Turn those into pellets. Leather, whatever. And the leather and fish are used for buying these upgrades, which are really powerful effects during the game. Alright, and then I can move one. So that means take one of my warriors and move him one space. So the spaces are denoted by these yellow lines, and water also separates space. So you can't move across water. You have to go around it. So this whole area here in a 2-player game is one space. And they do that for area control purposes. And then this area here is one space. And then this little area up here is one space. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3 spaces. There's only 3 spaces on this board. And then our home territories, we can never enter each other's home territories. So when you move, you can either just put the guy out there as a guard. He'll be guarding that area. Or you can move it into a space with a woman. Or you can move it into a space with a man. If you move it into a space with a woman or a man, it's considered an outpost, but it's still a warrior. And then at the end of your turn, you have a chance to convert those outposts into the actual items that they are. So that becomes important later on. But for now, I think he's just going to do one movement over here to that man spot, which is a hunter. All men produce beavers. So they go hunting and they bring home beavers. So whenever you take this action, everywhere you have a man would give you 1 beaver. And you saw earlier that beavers are then turned into leather, and the leather is then used to purchase these upgrades. So you're starting to see the purpose here. So he'll move there. That's the end of his action. At the end of his action, he'll replace that outpost with a man, and the warrior goes back to the home location. So basically, the theme here is the warrior goes out, stands guard at that hunting spot until a hunter can get there. And then the hunter, once the hunter's there, the outpost leaves. And now, but see, now he's not being protected. He could be attacked at any moment. Well, we'll get to that later. All right, so back to red. Red has no choice. He has to do the trade action because you have to go in a straight line. And trade is probably the most complex action in the game. So the first part of trade is you can swap any number of resource for any number of other resources. So it's 1 for 1. If I needed a bunch of corn, I could trade in my bean, my pumpkin, and my fish for 3 more corn. But I don't really need anything at all, so I'm not going to trade. But if you, and your trading is limited to the number of canoes you have out. So if I was trading right now, I could swap out 1 for 1 up to 2 times because I have 2 canoes. And if I did, I would have to reveal the top card of the mask deck. And if it has a skull on it, let me see. There you go. If it has a skull on it, that trade caused me to contract smallpox. And I have to take one of my women, warriors, or men from my home spot and put them into my longhouse because they're sick. Oh, and I forgot, anytime someone takes the last card of the discard pile from the mask deck, you replace it. So there always has to be a discard there as an option to draw. So anyways, we did not trade, so we don't have to check for smallpox. Next, I can purchase an upgrade tile. And the way these upgrade tiles work It's pretty simple. Let me just grab all three so I can show you. So to buy a level 1 upgrade tile, you have to pay, please focus on this. Okay, cool. You have to pay 1 leather, 1 fish, and 1 of any vegetable. Okay? For 2, you have to pay 2 leather, 2 fish, and 2 vegetables, 2 different vegetables. So it has to be either a corn, a pumpkin, pumpkin, beans, beans, corn. It can't be 2 of any of these. So, and then same for 3. 3 leather, 3 fish, and 1 of each vegetable. So there you go. That's how you purchase the upgrade tiles. So that's what I'm going to do right now, because I have 1 of each right there. I got 1 leather, 1 fish, and I'll use the, I guess I'll use the corn, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So 1, 1, 1, return those to the supply, and I'll take, let's see. There we go. I'll take this one. So these things do a lot of stuff as well. As soon as you purchase them, you gain the level number of points on the commerce track. So I gain 1 point on the commerce track. Then you gain 1 point on whatever it indicates here. In this case, I would gain 1 point on the lowest track, my lowest scoring track. In this case, I have 2 that are both at 0, so I get to choose. And I'll just choose the combat track. And then I also have this ability I can use once per round. And this basically says, when I trade, I get to trade equal to the number of canoes I have out plus 2. And when I do the trade action, I don't have to check for smallpox. So that's really good. I don't have to check for smallpox. So there you go. Once per round, I can use that ability. And when you use it, you flip it over, and at the beginning of a new round, they'll refresh. And finally, that was step 2 of the trade action. The last step of the trade action is I can spend 1 to 5 different resources to increase my score on the commerce track equal to the number of resources that I spent. So if I wanted to get 5 extra points on the commerce track, I'd have to spend 5 different resources. So basically 1 of each. Or I could spend 1 or 2 different ones or 3 different ones. You get the idea. So that's the trade action. Every time you see that symbol, you do all this stuff. Okay? And that's the end of red's turn. Then blue. Where is blue going to go? You already saw canoe and trade. I showed you mask. So let's go fishing. All right, so this symbol here, you see there's a canoe and it points to a fish. So you get 1 fish for each canoe that you have out. Blue only has 1. There you go. Blue gets 1 fish. And obviously those are valuable because they go towards buying these upgrades. Then it has a picture of a turtle tile plus some weapons, which means combat. Combat track scoring, not combat happens. So the way the turtle tiles work, there's a level 3, 4, and 5 for women, men, and canoes. And that means if you have 3 women out on the board, you can take a level 3 turtle tile. 3 or more, actually. But you can only have 1 turtle tile of each type and level. So you can only have 1 3 for each category, 1 4 for each category, 1 5 for each category. So right now I have, this counts as 1 man at my home base. You can only have one in each spot out of your home, but one stack in your home, but it still only counts as one hunting ground. So I've got one hunting ground, two hunting grounds. I've only got one woman out, and I've only got one canoe. So right now I can't get any turtle tiles. I'd have to have either 3 hunting grounds controlled, 3 women out, or 3 canoes out to get the lowest level turtle tile. And what the turtle tiles do is, at the end of the game, you flip these over, and you can look at them throughout the game and strategize accordingly. But they give you points on a specific scoring track. But the number 5, the level 5 turtle tiles, give you 2 points, and you get to choose between 2 different tracks. So turtle tiles are good. Okay, and then finally, after I decide which turtle tile I want, if I qualify for one of those turtle tiles, then I would fix the camera. Then I would see how many areas on the map where I have the most warriors. And at the moment, I think that's going to be a whopping 1, which would be my home area, because I don't have any warriors anywhere else other than my home area. So I would gain 1 point on the combat track, and that's the end of the turtle action. Turtle tile plus fighting. Goes back to red. Red chooses to go second. Goes back to blue. Blue doesn't have an option. They're going to be going here to the harvest. So there's a picture of a woman with an arrow towards the 3 different types of vegetables. That's harvest. So when you harvest, you gain resources equal to, you gain resources for each place that you have a woman. So up here, she's got this little picture of corn. So in my home base, I would get 1 corn, and I don't have any other women out. If I had a woman here and a woman here, I would get a total of 1, 2, 3 corn. If I had a woman here, I would get 1, 2, 3 corn and a beans. Here's some pumpkins. You get the idea. Whenever you do the harvest action, you get resources equal to, you get resources for each spot you have a woman on. So there's my 1 corn. All right. And that's it. That's the end of round 1, or year 1. The game is played across 7 years. Okay? So we're only going to do this 7 times. All the mask cards go back into players' hands. If they had used any of these tiles, they'd flip them back over. All of the mask points reset, so everything becomes available again. You resolve the new player order. There's actually a card here to help you remember all this. So it says right here, new player order, adjust tiles, restore mask, restore progress tile, new year begins. So like I said, you restore these progress tiles, move the masks over. Blue is now the first player. So blue will take this. Red will take this back. And now here's the really interesting part of the game. So the new first player is blue. So what blue does, they'll remove the bottom 3 tiles. Let me zoom in for this. Alright. So the bottom 3 tiles come down, and anywhere that there was a selection made is flipped over, but it doesn't matter when they come off because they flip back over. So these will come down, and since I chose this one will flip over and become a ritual action. These will slide down, and this one will flip over, become a ritual action. All these tiles have ritual on the back. Then I'll look at my tiles here, and I'll say, let's see, which one do I want to purchase? Because remember, like I said, there's a little quote-unquote market over here, and I get to choose a new tile. So basically I get to look at these and say, is there anything here that's better than this? So here's one that's just trade. I don't see any trade over there. Here's one that's just canoe. I see nothing with canoe. This one is turn beavers into leather and move 1. So I see one that has beavers to leather, mask, and move 1. This one right here is just worth 4 points at the end of the game. It doesn't do anything when you select it. It just takes up a spot on your track for 2 rounds until it drops off. And then you can replace it, and it's worth 4 points at the end of the game. So what I think I'm going to do is replace this beaver to leather in 1 movement with the beaver to leather mask 1 movement. So what you'll do is set that one aside. Grab the new tile. And then come back to your player board. And you'll shuffle these up. Because remember, the backs are all the same. So you just give these a quick shuffle so you don't know what's what. Put them back in there randomly. And here's your new selection. So when I was saying each player gets one of these and they can swap out a tile during the game, that's what I was talking about. Is in future turns, if I wanted to swap out one that's on my board for this one that I just took out and replaced, I can toss this and replace one on my board with the one that I've already traded for. But I would lose that 1 point at the end of the game. So there you go. Both players are going to do that. So I'll go ahead and get this done for red. And this is something you do at the end of every round. So all 3 of these will come down. These will come down. These will come down. These 2 come off. These flip. There you go. And then I got to make a decision. So I've got the turtle tile and fishing. I've got harvest and I've got mask. Oh, and anytime somebody takes one of these, it's immediately replaced. Not those. These are immediately replaced. So let's see. Mask. There's nothing over there with mask. There's a fire and a harvest. But I found that the fires later in the game aren't that good. They let you choose anything, but if the choices of anything aren't very good, then what good is that? There's fish and turtle tile. So I'll take that one. So this is fish and turtle tile. This will be trade turtle tile fish. So it gives me 1 extra without losing anything. Yeah. Let's shuffle these up. And drop them back in here. And another thing I've noticed is if you, like a couple of games, I would choose this whole, this whole row, then this whole row, and then on my 3rd round, the bottom 2 are nothing but ritual. And so you got to watch out for that. You could screw up your future turns by not planning. So anyways, we got the first player marker. We got our new tiles in place. We'll go ahead and move to year 2. And if you notice this little purple diamond, and I put these tiles here, I don't think we're going to get this far in this video. But once you finish year 3 and you're done picking your new tiles, and you go into year 4, you'll take these purple tiles and to replace this market over here. So they get even better. After year 3 is over, you get these new tiles with better and better abilities, more movement, sometimes double the actions, a lot more movement. The movement's important once everybody gets their guys spread out on the board. So anyways, let's do one more turn. We've hit on about everything that you can hit on except for hunting and what happens when you invade someone's territory. So let's get moving. Blue is going to use the 3 movement option. They're going to go, 1 movement is going to be to lay a guy down on this woman's space. 2nd movement will be to play another outpost on that woman's space. 3rd movement will just be to put a guard right there. So at the end of this movement action, he'll bring his 2 outpost warriors back home, and 2 women will go out for future harvesting. Now this guard remains here to protect them, and I'll show you what that means. So now we're over to red. He wants to go first. He'll take the first player spot. Then we go back to blue, which is going to do the mask. And remember, during a mask action, you look at your card. You can either take a card from the discard pile or the draw pile. So we'll take one from the draw pile. We got lucky and got a pair. So we'll go ahead and play that pair, which will move our little piece here to the pair spot, which is worth 2 points on the mask track. Move us up to number 2 on the mask track. And that's the end of the mask action. Go back to red. What does red want to do? I think red wants to start moving too. So just to keep his options open, maybe he'll use the fire action. And he gets to choose any action he wants that he will not use in the future and has not already used. So he's going to use the move 3. That's his fire action. So he puts the fire token right there to remind himself. And he'll go 1. So now, see, he's moved into this area. Remember, this whole area right here is 1 territory. So now he has a choice. He can either be passive and stay there, or he can go over to this hunting ground and lay down as an outpost so that we can send a man out there later. Or he can fight this guard, which will leave these 2 unprotected. So fights are simple. It's 1 for 1. Once you move into an area with a guard, you choose whether you're going to engage them or not. If you engage them, both players take their warriors off of the board and put them back in their longhouses because they've both been injured during battle. So that's what he'll do for his first action, his first movement. He has 2 more movement points left. He'll move here and shove her out of there. So he scares the woman away. She runs back home injured. And then his third action, he'll put a guard out there. At the end of the movement action, he'll take his outpost back home and send his woman out. There you go. Now, I know this is kind of sexist or whatever, but this is a very thematic game. It's supposed to be based back in the actual time when Native Americans actually owned the land before they were invaded by the different countries. So that was the movement action for red. Blue is going to go up here and turn beavers into leather, which he has none. He's going to take the mask action. Now, he's already played these cards, so these aren't in his hand anymore. So he's just going to have to draw a card, and he won't be getting any points at all because you have to have at least 2 different cards. So he'll just take the top. That's in his hand. He can't play anything or get any points, so it's kind of a wasted mask action. There are some special abilities you can purchase, these progress tiles, that let you pick the cards, the mask cards, back up into your hand whenever you take the mask action, which lets you continuously do really effective mask actions every time in the round. So anyway, the last part of this tile is move 1. I don't know if this has become obvious or if I mentioned it, but you do everything on the tile. It's not a or. It's you do it in order, top to bottom. All right, so I get to move 1. So I have a choice here. I can either go here and kick his guard out, which would cause me to come back too, or I could just, not worry about him, go right here, and then at the end of that action, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Put a woman out there. All right, so it goes back to red. And red doesn't really have a choice, does he? He's going to be going up and down like that. So he'll hunt. So any men he have out would bring home beavers, but there's none out. And then he gets 1 movement action. So I think he'll move. Let's see. Yeah, he's going to move here since there's nobody guarding her. That sends her back home hurt. And then at the end of that action, he'll bring him back over here, Put the woman out. There you go. That's the end of his. And then blue has no choice but to go second. Then red will take this action, which is trade. I'm not going to trade. I have nothing to trade. And I don't have enough to buy any more progress tiles. But the next action is turtle. And the reason I was putting all these women out is so that I can get this level 3 woman turtle tile. So I have 1, 2, 3 women out. I don't meet the canoe condition or the hunters. So I get a level 3 turtle tile for women. So this is worth 1 point on the mask track at the end of the game. So I just need to keep that in mind. Then I get to go fishing. So red has 2 canoes out. I get 2 fish. There you go. And that's the end of red's turn. So that's the end of round 2. So we resolve turn order. Red will be going first next time. And I'll do one more round because there's one more thing that we need to cover, which is the ritual action. So anyway, new year, mask tokens get reset. I forgot to replace this. And these come down. Fire token goes off. And wherever your fire token was does not flip. Only where you actually had your pawns. These slide down. This flips over. And then I get to choose a new tile from the market over there. So we got fire, canoe. I see nothing with canoe. I see the fire. Movement. You know what? I think... It's a tough decision. I guess I'll take this. I'll replace my original fire with a fire and harvest. I don't know if this is good advice or not, but I try not to have more than 2 fires floating around my board at any time. Because it seems like if you get too many fires, it's just taking up space. I mean, you get to choose whatever you want, but there's a specific path you have to go. So anyway, these come down, and then I'll be flipping this one and this one. These slide down, and I have to make a decision. What do I want to replace? Oh, I need to replace this. Okay, so we got fish, turtle tile, fire, and 3 movement. Definitely don't want to get rid of the 3 movement. Movement's very important in this game. You want to be able to spread out and defend your areas and all that good stuff. Alright, so fire and fish, or let's see. How about sure, why not? Let's replace the fire with fire and fish. I feel like I just did this, but I can't remember what red did. Anyways, alright, so there's that. And here we are into year 3. I've already moved that. I already moved those out. I forgot to use this. Blue would take their mask cards back into their hand. And we start a new round. Red's first. So let me go ahead and do a ritual so you can see what that is. All the tiles have this ritual symbol on the back. If you choose to take the ritual action, you can look right here. You get to add 2 in any combination from your longhouse to your home. Then you gain points on the ritual track equal to your lowest count between men, warriors, and women. So I could put a warrior out and a woman out, and then I find out which is the lowest. If there's a tie for the lowest, then that'll be the number. So I got 4 women here at home, 4 warriors, and I still have all 5 of my men. So 4 is the lowest. So I got to put 2 out, and then I'll gain 4 points on the ritual track. Boom. So that's the ritual action. I think blue wants to go first next time. Red will harvest because they have women on 1, 2, always remember to include your home, 3 harvest spots, and they all produce corn. I think red needs to diversify a little bit. But anyway, there's 3 corn. So that's the harvest action. And then blue definitely wants to ritual it up because he's been knocked down and beat up out of all his territories. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 warriors, 4 women, and 4 men. So he'll also get 4 points on the ritual track. Alright, goes back to red. He has no option but to turn beavers into leather. He's got 2 beavers. Turn those into leather. And he gets to move 1. So if he wanted, he could kick him out of there. But I think he's going to head over here and start hunting. So put an outpost there. At the end of the action, he'll come back home, replace it with a hunter. And then back to blue. He's going to put a canoe out because he wants to be able to start trading and getting more fish, making his trades more effective and fishing more effective. Red has no choice but to go second. Blue has no choice but to fire action, so he gets to choose. I think he'll choose 3 movement. So he'll go 1, get out of here. 2, get out of here. 3, get out of here. There you go. Knocking red out. These guys come back home and are replaced with his women. Alright. So that was his 3 movement. He basically just took back control of this territory. And then he'll fish. So he's got 2 canoes out. You get 2 fish. And there you go. That's the end of year 3. Then you go into year 4. You would swap all your bottom rows out like we did before. This market would get replaced with this market. And then you just continue to play like that until the end of year 7. Then you would add up your total points of your 2 lowest scores. So remember, these are 2 separate tracks. So you would take your lowest score on this track and your lowest score on this track. Let's just fast forward in time a little bit and say it was something like this. Alright, so on this track, blue's lowest is 9. On this track, he's tied at 12. So 9 and 12 is, what, 21? So he has 21 points. He did not use his swap, so that's an extra 1 point. So he's got 22 points. Red would have 9 plus 9, which is 18, plus 1 is 19. So it would be 19 to 22. That's how the scoring works. You're lowest on each track. So it's a really cool concept. You have to keep an eye on different scoring and what it takes to gain those scores. And these progress tiles are way more important than I made them appear, because I just wanted you to see all the different options. So a lot going on here. They also give you these 5x tokens in case you get too much stuff. So I've got 4 fish here already. If I went fishing again, I would end up with 6. So I could put a 5 here and then just put a 1 on there, so I know I'd have 7 of those fish. So there you go. That is pretty much half a game of Wendake and how to play. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel. I will be doing more of these how to play videos in the future. And as always, thank you for watching, and play all the games.